Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central, to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support all of you with the end goal of building financial literacy and accessing capital. A lot of times we spend most of our attention on the Chapman Loan Program, which is a very valuable resource that's designed, as you can see on the chapmanloanprogram.org website and watching this video, it's designed to provide the ingredients necessary to have a fundable business. So very valuable, and that's our bread and butter there. But today we're going to talk about a different resource, different. And this is located on the guaranteedfunding.org website. So it looks like this. It's the home page that we're on. So just to give you a little backdrop, and then we'll go into the what, when, where, and how. When the three of us, Mark, Chuck, and I, all work for the SBA, this is what we took out to the marketplace when we left the SBA, based upon the need we saw to help small businesses build loan packages. And I'll talk more about that because, of course, a lot of small business owners need capital. A lot of them are not qualified. So just to be clear, on the Access to Capital program here, it has some significant differences from the Chapman Loan Program. So, for example, there is no upfront cost to enroll on the Access to Capital program. So that is a significant difference, because the Chapman Loan Program, even though we have financing, the buy now, pay later, and so forth, there is an upfront cost. Well, why is there an upfront cost? Because there's specific deliverables that require an influx of money to cover. However, with the Access to Capital program, we're able to work with participants. We're able to, in writing, guarantee them a minimum of $100,000 capital raise, but they're not going to pay anything up front. Now, the way that works is we're going to help them get an initial first tranche of capital. So there is a refundable setup fee, but it's paid after the first tranche of capital. What I'd like to do is take about 3 minutes and watch this embedded YouTube video, and then we'll come back and discuss it. So let me play this. We'll make it larger. Well, hello. I'd like to spend just a couple minutes with you talking about the Guaranteed Funding Program that can be used to start or grow a business with no upfront cost and guaranteed results. And we do not require any minimum credit score or time in business to participate. Everyone gets approved, and so it's nice that regardless of background issues, we're able to assist anyone in getting at least $100,000 to start or grow a business. And at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you see our contact information. So the question really is, are you looking for money to start or grow a business? Getting money to start or grow a business should not be difficult. And our grant subsidized stimulus program from a nonprofit organization, again, does not require any of those common barriers that typically keep entrepreneurs from getting funded, such as credit or time in business. And in writing, we guarantee a minimum of $100,000. And of course, there's no upfront fees. If you're needing more than $100,000, that's fine. The way the grant is written, the $100,000 is the floor, the minimum, but we can certainly help you raise more capital based upon your wants, needs, preferences, and qualifications. The first thing that we need to do is get an initial round of funding. We call it a tranche, initial tranche of funding. Typically, clients will get 3 to 7 cash funding offers, of course, with no hard inquiries, within just 24 hours of enrolling in the Guaranteed Funding Program. For this funding to actually hit your account can vary. Some of the funding sources as soon as the next day. Some may take a couple days, but we can get funding under your EIN even for a startup. There's many different types of sources of capital available: SBA, non-SBA, lines of credit, real estate financing, so forth. Don't worry about the details. We'll put together a capital raise plan based upon your preferences, needs, and wants. And the way we do that is through step 2, building out your loan package. So the loan package is what allows us to figure out the right source of capital or sources based upon your mitigating circumstances. So this is where we're gathering and creating, when necessary, the documentation needed for funding, things like the business plan and financial projections, balance sheet, so forth. So if you have some of this, great, makes it even quicker. Have none of it or only have some of it, that's okay. That's what we're here. We are experts at developing the loan package. We used to do this for the SBA directly. We can get this done quickly, as soon as 24 hours. Really, the timing of step 2 of building out your loan package is much more based on you than us. So at that point, I think it's helpful for you to understand what we do and how we do it, but ultimately we encourage you to give it a try. Let's go ahead and get you at least $100,000 to start or grow a small business. Our landing page is, all right, so we'll close that out. So the purpose of sharing this with you today is that this is a different resource. Obviously, it's not the same as the Chapman. It doesn't have the same deliverables, but it does have the advantage of no upfront cost. And so this may be a good fallback position when you have a client that's either unwilling or unable to pay to get started on the Chapman Loan Program, whereby we can work with them here in the Access to Capital program, get them an initial tranche of capital. So now they have the money available to work with you and afford your program. So again, the Access to Capital program is technically not a branch, quote unquote, program. It's not something that you offer or that you provide, but it is a resource that we wanted to make sure that you're aware of. I was visiting with Heather, and Heather mentioned that she had a number of prospects that just might be gun shy of coming into the Chapman program because there is an upfront cost, and it's okay to have an upfront cost, right? Many services there's an upfront cost for. Here we could help those individuals that are hesitant or unwilling to pay up front, create value, get money in their pocket, build trust, and then you could come back then, Heather and others, and then enroll them in the Chapman program if needed. Who has questions, comments, concerns on the Access to Capital program? All right, so Carrie's asking, what's the process? Well, the process is remarkably simple, Carrie and others. So if you have someone that you want to introduce to the Access to Capital program, you're going to take them to guaranteedfunding.org, and they'll simply fill out the form here, submit the bluish purple, and this will get them set up. So then we'll work with them, get them, as we mentioned, their first tranche of funding. We'll let you know when that first tranche of funding has occurred, and then you'll be able to then offer to assist them in other ways, including the Chapman program, if you wish. But it's important to understand this is not a branch program. It's not set up to be directly offered by the branches. It's not a revenue stream, but essentially it can be a tool to help you convert more people that you're not able to close directly into the Chapman program. But it's not a substitute, right? The value proposition of the Chapman program is different. There's a lot of things that we're doing over here, is highlighted, that's not done in the guaranteed funding. All right, so then Heather asks, can branches participate? Sure. Anytime we're talking about resources, we don't exclude some groups of people. So we don't exclude veterinarians. We don't exclude auto mechanics. We don't exclude branch owners. So certainly. But what I would say, and as you scroll down the page, by the way, there's more information about, how is it that we can accomplish this. It's based around the 3 C's, so there's no surprise, right? The 3 C's. Bernard's asking a good question. So there's not tracking. That this is not a branch program. It's not a branch program, but it is a resource that exists that I wanted you to be aware of. That again, Bernard or others, if you have prospects that you can't close because either they're unable to or unwilling to pay for the Chapman, you can send them over here. We can work with them to get their first tranche of capital. Everyone gets approved. So to be clear, on access to capital here, there is a setup fee. It's refundable, but there is a setup fee. It's $2,500. There is a setup fee, but they do not pay it up front. They do pay it out of their first tranche, which we just talked about, the initial tranche, step one. Everyone will get a first tranche. Now, how much do they get? It'll vary by individual. Most people, as it mentioned, will get multiple cash offers. But this is I guess, a safety net for those of you who are needing help getting deals closed because they won't sign up directly with you on the Chapman program. Here, we can put some money in their pocket. We can generate some trust, and then you would be able to turn around and upsell them. All right, Timothy's asking, can the branch fill this out? No, the branch can't fill this out because this is going to actually take them into the terms and conditions and get them set up. So this is not meant for you to go drop in a bunch of names and numbers and try to create a pipeline. You would direct, if you wanted to use this as a tool, you could certainly help people go to guaranteedfunding.org, but they need to fill it out themselves. It's not something that you should be filling out unless you have a power of attorney for them, which you probably don't. All right, let's see. Heather asked, do we send the clients over to the landing page and have them sign up that way? Well, okay, so again, our bread and butter is the Chapman Loan Program, the startup program, because it provides a lot of the very specific resources that's needed to have a fundable business, but there's a cost associated with that. So if there's an instance where, again, you have a client that can't or won't pay, instead you could bring them here. But just don't confuse. It's not a branch program. So right, as Bernard asked, yeah, there's no tracking. This is not a branch program, but it is a resource that can put money into the client's pocket, create trust, and then you can come back and introduce them to the Chapman Loan Program. All right, hopefully that makes sense. And again, going back to, why is this not too good to be true? Well, it's legal, it's legitimate. What do? We help them build their 3 C's, right? Just like we learned in middle school or high school or college. We're going to help them build their business credit, their capacity and collateral, but it does not include some of those free items, right? Over here, they're getting free collateral. They're not getting free collateral here. Over here, we're structuring their entity. We're providing them a business address and the filing, and all that's free. Those are valuable resources, but it has a cost. So these participants have a cost on the Chapman at the time of enrollment. They don't have upfront cost here. All right. And so again, there's no revenue share off this. This is not a branch program. This is not a branch program. So we have a lot of questions that are confusing it. It's a resource that I want you to be aware of, but it's not a branch program. So there's no comp payout. It's not a branch program, but it's a resource. If you have people that you can't close, either because they have an inability or an unwillingness to pay, because there is upfront cost for Chapman, there is no upfront cost for guaranteed for the access to capital. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, as Heather mentioned, it's a bridge program. That's a good way to put it. It's a bridge program. All right, Katori's asking about the funding specifics. Well, what I don't want anyone to think is that there's one source of funding. There's many, many different sources of funding. And so, as we just covered in this brief 3-minute video that we played, we're going to gather information from them and then determine what is the best source or sources based upon their mitigating circumstances. All right, Harold's asking about the business plan. So yes, Harold, we actually build out a business plan, a full business plan in Access to Capital. So that's a good point, a good observation. That is a different element. So there's different elements for the Chapman Loan Program, which you should be familiar with, versus the Access to Capital. The Access to Capital, we're working on the loan package, where I think it'd be easiest described that the Chapman Program is building the entity. So what's in a loan package, the business plan, the financial projections, and so forth. So that's what we're doing over here, and it works really well. So clients could do both Access to Capital and the Chapman Program, which is obviously what would make sense if you're using it as a bridge program. However, people could do one or the other as well. All right. Free funding proposal Bernard's asking about, and so I think that is here. So my goal wasn't to distract you from everything else that's on the guaranteedfunding.org website, but some of you are looking around there. So yes, this is a resource as well, but I wouldn't get distracted. My purpose today is to make sure that you're aware of the Access to Capital program, and they are getting a funding proposal, right? Because that is part of step one. So hopefully this is not confusing. Hopefully this is helpful. So let's wrap it up. I wanted to make sure that you each knew that there's a different program. It's really our legacy program when we first started back in 2018. So it's specifically called Access to Capital. There's no upfront cost. It's not a branch program, but as Heather mentioned, well, it's a bridge program. If you have someone that you can't close on Chapman because they have an inability or unwillingness to pay, because there is upfront cost for Chapman because there's specific deliverables that requires money to be collected. In Access to Capital, there is no upfront cost. We get them their first tranche. Then they pay the refundable setup fee. Then they should have money in their pocket, purse, bank account, what have you, that you could then turn around and work with them on the Chapman, on the startup program. So it's real simple. If you want to refer yourself or someone else, guaranteedfunding.org. This is the home page. Just fill it out. Super simple. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.